Hi, I'm Nick Lowry. This is my good friend Damon Corneli, and we're going to be running through the last 4 releases of the release series, the Hanasu no Waza. The last 4 releases are specialized in form in that you can do them independently, but they're built along the idea of reactions. And so if we look at the 5th release, we begin in the same form as we started with the 1st release. So as Damon comes in here and gets a hold, we notice he's in a cross-gripping relationship. We begin with the same pushing function, and ideally I should make this go on just as he makes his grip. And we see that give his shoulder and his posture a little exaggerated effect. I'm stepping in the same basic alignment as in the 1st release, but rather than turning to the outside, I'm going to turn under his arm. This gives us the basic form of the 5th release, which can then end in a nice guiding activity like that. So, how does that come about? Well, I may start directly into number 1 release, and he might start wrapping around me like he's going to come and choke me or grab me from behind, which is second hand, in which case number 1 release is no longer viable. But the 5th release becomes very easy right there. So this is a very common way that you can think about number 1 release occurring, is you'd start into one fails for whatever reason. Maybe you've run into an object, or somebody's entered your path of travel, or perhaps he's reached around to get a hold of some part of your body, and you go, oh, I can't turn around in my normal number 1, and so that's restricted, but number 5 is still available to you. That's one way to consider how number 5 release occurs. Another idea that is quite useful, and you might find interesting to play with, is that it could be a reaction. So I could begin, say, a number 2 release, a swing through release, swinging this way. And we could say, oh, I'm starting to do number 2, but my timing's bad, or he feels me pulling. I have a little extra action, and he starts to resist. He's taking me against my number 2. So if I get into a tug-of-war with the guy, and he's pulling back, number 5 is very readily accessible too. So whether you consider number 5 release as a function of a number 1 that's blown because the man's wrapping around you, or as a consideration of you start to do a number 2 release and he's pulled back, either way, you wind up with a nice paradigm for referencing your ideas of the 5th release. The elements in terms of the nuts and bolts, again, the wrist engages right as the grip comes on. Nice pushing function here. We step off. We slip right under the point where our 2 hands meet. We don't want to be trying to walk under him or trying to walk too far away from him. Wherever the hands are connected, or the wrist and the hand is connected, becomes the apex that we want to rotate directly underneath. So you're looking for that as your targeting mechanism to line your center up to make your turn. You want to turn right as the bodies go into the peak of body rise. So if you notice, we have a drop here, and as his second foot moves, both our feet come together. We're in synchrony. We hit the peak of body rise. I'm directly underneath the point where our hands are meeting, and I'm in my optimal position to come into the next body drop control position. So those are a few of the technical references you'd like. Remember, we keep the feet stepping together, and we keep the rise and fall going together. And we try to, just as in the walking, try to rotate under the position where our hands are connected.